good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Yes, it's Friday, 6:05. We've got so much to get to today. And folks, I've got to tell you, the economy has gotten so bad. It is so bad right now that even Joe Biden's job is being outsourced to an Indian. So I'm going to play this clip for you. I think it's a great way to start out our Friday morning. Let's take a listen.
After much self-reflection, I have come to the realization that there is one thing very Indian about you, and that is that you became the Democratic nominee without a single vote. Bitch, you pulled the biggest scam of all time. No Indian I know, from the call centers to email phishing, no Indian I know has scammed 250 million people. Not bad, Kamala. That's pretty good numbers. If you manage to actually win the election, you will have pulled off the biggest Indian scam of all time. From here on out, your new name is not Kamalto actually. It is now Scamala. Scamala Harris. Don't act.
So this guy, he's an Indian fellow. I don't know who he is. He's just on TikTok, and this guy is absolutely hilarious. I'm going to share one more with you, but the Indian community, they're not falling for this. And actually, it's kind of offensive. You know, you claim that you're Indian. AP, the Associated Press, came out and said that she was the first Indian in the U.S. Senate. And, you know, on her birth certificate, she's half Indian, but she's completely abandoned that side of her family, really, or that part of her. And she says that she's black, right? So this guy is not having it. And I don't think the Indian community is very happy that she uses them when she wants to get into the U.S. Senate, because there's a big Indian population where her district was when she was running for the U.S. Senate. But now it suits her to identify as black, and the Indian community is not having it. So this guy, one more clip. You guys are really going to like this one. Let's take a listen to this one. I think his name is Tony. He's just on TikTok, and he just makes fun of Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris, you are not getting any vote from the Indian community. Specifically because you do not talk like this. You are half Indian, and I've never seen you eat chicken tikka masala. Kamala Harris, have you even seen Om Shanti Om? Do you even know how to say hello in Hindi? It is Kyawa, by the way. But don't use that in your speech. I have not seen you wear a sari once in your life. Donald Trump will get the Indian vote, however. Do you know who runs all of Trump's IT software? That is correct. Indians. We run all the tech support on Truth Social. Kamala, I don't ever want you using your half Indianness ever again. We revoke your Indian access. You are not allowed to Uber eat from any Indian restaurant ever again. Indians, shame Kamala Harris. Shame.
Oh, that is just rich. It is just rich. The Indian community, they're not going to be voting for Scamala. So I wanted to start out this morning with a couple of fun videos, but we are going to get to Jen Psaki. She's saying that Tim Walz is who JD Vance wants to be. So she claims that JD Vance is jealous, essentially, of Tim Walz. And to be honest, folks, I don't think Tim Walz even really wants to be Tim Walz, but we'll get to that. UK authorities are now arresting UK citizens for social media posts that contain so-called inaccurate information. We're also going to get to MSNBC. They say that Tim Walz is going to teach voters that there is joy in having a boss who is black. Okay, having your boss be a black woman. and that Tim Walz is going to be teaching voters that there is no greater joy than having your boss be a black woman. I don't think people really care about the whole racist gobbledygook. I mean, really, that's what MSNBC is spouting out here. So we're going to chat about that. I do want to get to this. Like I said, I don't think a single person in the world really wants to be Tim Walz. But Jen Psaki thought otherwise she was on The Morning Joe. I think that's an MSNBC show. Absolutely ridiculous. And like I said, I don't think Tim Walz even really wants to be Tim Walz, right? So Jen Psaki shares on The Morning Joe that she thinks J.D. Vance is essentially jealous of Tim Walz and wants to be Tim Walz. So Jen Psaki argued that J.D. Vance wants to be Tim Walz, and I think that this is probably one of the dumbest, if not the dumbest, it's got to be the dumbest observations in this election cycle I've ever seen. So let's take a listen to Jen Psaki on MSDNC.
Guys, clearly not up to the task. It has been a hard start, to say the least. And yesterday, that whole, I don't know what that was, when he walked up to Kamala Harris's plane and said it was his future plane, and then tried to crack some jokes with the reporters and pose some questions. And
notice how she doesn't say what the questions were. Notice how she doesn't say what the jokes were. He didn't really even crack jokes. I mean, he was kind of trolling them a little bit, but he, asked the media, hey, have they told you why Kamala Harris refuses to do press conferences with you or refuses to take questions from you? Have they told you why that is? That's the question he asked of the gaggle of press right outside of Air Force Two. And he went there and he cracked a joke and he said, hey, that's going to be my plane in a couple of months or a few months. So that's what J.D. Vance said. But she doesn't, on MSNBC. MSNBC refuses to even acknowledge what was said by J.D. Vance to the gaggle. Because, of course, they would have to point out that Kamala Harris has not been seen in 19 days or so. Well, she hasn't talked to the press in 19 plus days. So, yeah, they'd have to admit that on MSNBC, and they don't want to. So let's take a listen.
But it just, like a lot of other moments he has on stage or in front of reporters, it kind of fell flat.
Yeah.
So on the Dem side, you have Coach. And then on the Republican side, you have JV, Vance. He just seemed like he's not ready for varsity. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
So does Donald Trump replace him?
I mean, look, I think that's hard to imagine. That's just my gut, because it would be acknowledging failure, and he's already this far down the road. Now, Trump has surprised us many times before. What I will also say about J.D. Vance is this has happened in politics before, not just on the Republican side, certainly on the Democratic side too, where there's these candidates that seem like they're a good idea on paper, right? J.D. Vance, senator from Ohio, married with 3 little kids, wrote a best-selling book. That seems like a good idea. I think as soon as we saw him speak at the convention, which fell completely flat, it was clear that he was not the sparkler that maybe people in the Trump campaign thought he was. And Claire McCaskill said this thing the other day that I'm just going to steal and credit her for, that I think really defines it.
Here we go.
Tim Walz is who J.D. Vance wants to be, which is probably why Tim Walz is driving Donald Trump so crazy. He is legit, authentically a Midwestern regular guy you could talk to in a hardware store. That's not who J.D. Vance actually is, even that if that is who he presents himself as on paper. And that's part of the problem.
Well, even more, Jen, Tim Walz really supports his candidate and is there to support her and believe in her through and always did. J.D. Vance.
Look, before we continue with this clip, there is nothing more inauthentic than these 2 rich, liberal white women talking about what they think a rural Midwesterner wants. Okay. So she is going to start here, the woman on MSNBC Morning Joe. She's going to start talking about Vance's past criticisms of Donald Trump, particularly during the 2016 election. Allegedly, or well, reportedly, Vance pondered whether Trump was the, quote, America's Hitler in a private Facebook message to a friend in 2016, and he referred to himself as a never Trump guy during an interview with Charlie Rose in that same year, according to Politico. Okay, so these are the reports. J.D. Vance did not like Donald Trump. A lot of people didn't like Donald Trump prior to him winning the election in 2016. Then we had 4 years of no new wars, the best economy we've ever seen, crackdown on mass immigration, illegal immigration. So it changed a lot of people's minds. His actual presidency changed people's minds. And are these people going to forget to mention that Kamala called Sleepy Joe a racist during the debate and accused him of sleeping around with a secretary of something or something like that, or some sort of aide? Like, that was Kamala Harris during the Democrat debate. Are they going to bring that up? But let's continue listening here to the Morning Joe. Stick with me.
Hated Trump.
Yes.
Literally hated him.
Yes.
And said horrific things about him. He was an anti-Trumper of the best order. And so I'm not sure how he figures out who he is at this very late date. Well, it's a struggle.
Yeah, look, I think in politics, as we all know, we've all been around it a long time. Voters, the American public can sniff inauthenticity. This guy is he's not authentic. He's not who he is.
He doesn't like Trump.
He doesn't like Trump. He's not presenting himself as who he was for many decades before he had this kind of about face in order to try to connect with the MAGA world. People sniff that. They recognize it. Voters are not dumb. They're smart.
Okay, so nobody really cares about any of the crap that was said prior to 2016 because it's what, years ago? I mean, we're coming up on 2024, right? So that's almost 10 years ago, and a lot of people's opinions change as time goes on, especially after Donald Trump had a great presidency. There's probably way more never Trumpers in 2016 who are going to vote for Trump now, and there's probably way more rhinos who are going to vote for Kamala Harris right now. Okay, in 2024, a lot changes in almost 10 years. So, she says that people aren't going to go out to vote because it appears that J.D. Vance 10 years ago didn't like Donald Trump. I don't think that that's going to cause people not to vote for Donald Trump. The only people who care about that are the people who are not going to vote for Trump anyway. Okay, if they actually cared about what J.D. Vance said nearly 10 years ago, then they probably weren't going to vote for Trump anyway. If people are voting solely based on the economy, something like who Vance liked in 2016, then it won't matter. A lot of people are just voting on the economy. It's the economy, stupid. So it doesn't really matter what Vance thought back in 2016. They're going to be voting on the economy. So, and like I said, these are two very out of touch liberals. They're rich white women, and they want to say, oh, he's just inauthentic. How does anybody really watch this crap? These people talk about nothing of significance. It's pathetic. And they go out there and they say, oh, voters, they care. Voters care if Vance liked Trump in 2016. Get real. Voters don't care if Vance liked Trump in 2016. That's not going to make a difference. She is correct about one thing, though. Right before I cut the clip there, she said that voters aren't dumb. Okay? Yes, they aren't dumb. And they're not going to be fooled by your inauthentic claims on this stupid show, The Morning Joe, MSNBC. All right, I got to take a quick break. You're listening to Conservative Cat. As always, I'm on YouTube. You can see me there. Subscribe to the YouTube channel today, and we'll be right back. Good morning. Hi, thanks so much for tuning in. You can always subscribe to the YouTube channel. I do want to chat a little bit about Donald Trump and him talking about how this was an actual coup. So he goes, I'm not even a fan of Joe Biden, and the election was taken from him. So I've described this multiple times before on this platform. Look, folks, you're running a marathon. Okay, you're running a long marathon. You're on the last mile of this marathon, and then somebody comes in for the guy coming in second on the last lap. Okay, that's cheating. The election is being stolen before our very eyes, and it's cheating. It's stealing. This is undemocratic. She's received no votes. Kamala Harris, and she came in on the last lap, and they were a distant second. Okay, Donald Trump was pulling ahead in the race, and they said, "Oh, we got to swap our guys." That's cheating. If you were to think of this as a race, like an actual race, a marathon, you would say, "Oh, well, that's definitely cheating." This is no different. It's a campaign. So Donald Trump saying this was a coup, and they forced Joe Biden out of there. I do want to talk about some Democrat voters. There was this former Democrat. She just torches Kamala Harris. And we're going to take a listen to that video. We're also going to chat about Joe Rogan. He made the endorsement of RFK Jr. today. Full disclosure, I really don't care for Joe Rogan. I've never been a Joe Rogan fan. Quite frankly, I can't stand him. Yes, he has a popular podcast. It's not for me. I've always thought he's a little politically dumb. And, he figures out things on his podcast like 2 years after the fact, right? So people with, any kind of political knowledge will tell you, and I get his podcast isn't like a political podcast or anything, but it just bothers me when he comes out and endorses RFK Jr. and a couple of years from now, he's going to realize that that was a poor decision. Not that I don't even I have complete disdain for RFK Jr. He likes killing babies, but I don't have complete disdain for him. I'm shocked that RFK Jr. has not come out and endorsed Donald Trump. Donald Trump obviously made a move to try to get RFK to endorse him. Donald Trump, what he did, he said that he's going to go after Big Pharma. He's going to get to the bottom of why there's a rise in autism in children. And he's going to compare that and, with the vaccination data, and he's going to get to the bottom of that. Why is there an increase in autism? And he came out and he said that that was going to be a priority of his administration once he's in the presidency. This guy, Joe Rogan, he endorsed Bernie Sanders too, by the way. So, like I said, I don't think his podcast is all that great. And I'm not shocked that he endorsed RFK Jr. Woohoo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. He doesn't even really like Joe Biden, but he's definitely saying that Joe Biden had the election stolen from him, and that's Donald Trump. Let's take a listen.
The presidency was taken away from Joe Biden, and I'm no Biden fan, but I tell you what, from a constitutional standpoint, from any standpoint you look at, they took the presidency away. Mm-hmm. And people were saying he lost after the debate. He couldn't win. Well, I don't know that that's true necessarily. But whether he could win or he couldn't win, he had the right to run. Mm-hmm. And they took it away. They said they're going to use the 25th Amendment. They're going to hit you hard. Either we can do it the nice. I know exactly, because I know a lot of people on the other side, believe it or not. And they said, we'll do it the nice way or we'll do it the hard way. And he said, all right. So they've really taken, what they've done is pretty incredible.
Oh, wow. So, he just said it, folks. He just said it. This was a coup. He just confirmed the coup run against Biden by Kamala, Obama, Pelosi, Schumer, and the media is silent on this. You had a guy, Joe Biden. He was running the race. He was coming in a distant second, okay? Donald Trump is leading. Think of a marathon, right? You're running a marathon. You're coming in a distant second. The guy in front of you is on his last lap, and he's going to win that race. But the guy in second, he's like, okay, maybe I can power through. Maybe I can do this if I just really, really try. And then all of a sudden, somebody comes in and swaps out on the last lap. I mean, that's cheating, right? You've got the second. Not that I think Kamala Harris is going to win, but it puts her at some sort of, it puts the Democrats at an advantage of getting that presidency by cheating. Okay, we would say that that's cheating. You can't swap the guy coming in second in a race for somebody else on the last lap. You can't do it. And these people, they tried to use the 25th Amendment, invoke the 25th Amendment against President Joe Biden. That was the hard way. He chose the easy way, and he stepped down. And he said, hey, I'm not going to seek re-election. That was the easy way. So Trump just went there. Absolutely incredible. So we are going to be chatting about the UK. I talked a little bit about this yesterday, but news just came in about a 55-year-old woman being arrested for sharing inaccurate information, so-called inaccurate information. The UK authorities are now arresting citizens for social media posts that contain, quote, inaccurate information. Yes, this is really sad. And you kind of need some background here. The UK is dealing with a mass illegal immigration problem, much like the United States. However, there, in some places, particularly Birmingham, I think that's what Birmingham, that's where these Muslim attacks are happening. So a lot of Middle Eastern, Syrian immigrants, illegal immigrants, have come to their country via the open border that they have as well. And they're raping women. They're stabbing people, okay? And I said it yesterday, not all cultures are the same in the Middle East. You can rape women, okay? In some places in the Middle East, they don't frown upon that. It's not illegal there. And they're bringing that type of culture, if you want to call it that. I don't even really want to call it that because that indicates that it's okay and it's acceptable there, and it shouldn't be, but it is. Okay, so that's their culture, and they're bringing it to the United Kingdom. So they're bringing it to this country, and they're not assimilating. They're not following the laws of that country, okay, because there it's illegal to rape women. At least it used to be until these people said that there were no such things as migrant crimes. If crimes are committed by illegal immigrants, then there's no such thing as a crime committed because he's an illegal immigrant. Because he's brown, he didn't actually commit the crime. So that's some background. That's what's going on in the UK. They're bringing their culture of rape to the United Kingdom, and people are speaking out about that. They're dissenting. The government is allowing this to happen. They're not arresting these people for raping their women, and just carnage, just complete carnage in these streets. And I've got videos and receipts that prove that that's happening. There are witnesses of mob violence in the streets of these English towns, and the legacy media uses euphemisms to obscure the violent Muslim patrols carrying out some sort of vigilante violence. I don't know why they're doing this, but there's just Muslim patrols. They're dressed in all black, and they've got these sticks, and they're beating people with sticks. And journalists and the citizenry there in the UK, they're documenting this. And now it's become illegal to even document it and share information about the Muslim community wreaking havoc on the Englishmen and English women. So authorities in the UK, they have arrested a 55-year-old woman. Even if authorities in the UK should arrest people for inaccurate information, which they shouldn't, by the way, that's not an arrestable offense, sharing inaccurate information, because what's inaccurate today might be true later, right? We found that out with COVID-19. sharing out, hey, 6 feet social distancing kind of does nothing to stop the spread of COVID-19. Now, if I would have shared that out in 2020, the government probably would have deemed me, and they did, because I was removed on several platforms. And the government worked in conjunction with big tech to remove people who dissented or shared out information that the masks and social distancing did absolutely nothing to stop the spread of COVID-19. Back then in 2020, that would have been deemed false and deemed inaccurate information to share that out. Fast forward to 2024, if I say that masking doesn't really help anybody stop the spread of COVID-19, nobody really bats an eye, because we kind of all know it's true, right? We have information now that proves the masking did not work. We had it back then too, but they just refused to hear it. So now, like I said, even if the authorities in the UK should arrest people for inaccurate information, which they shouldn't, why should they care if it fuels hatred over an evil psycho who went on a stabbing spree? So here it is. Authorities in the UK warned of thought crimes and that they are committed to arresting individuals who retweet things that they don't like. So they went out there. I told you yesterday that the UK, they're cracking down on what's called thought crimes for just thinking something or having political dissent or retweeting something that somebody else says. You're going to be arrested. This is tyrannical. This is crazy. And if the government doesn't like it, then they're going to arrest you. So in less than 24 hours after the UK warned, hey, don't you dare have any thought crimes. Don't you dare say anything politically incorrect. Don't you dare go against our narrative. After they came out and said that they were going to start arresting people, less than 24 hours, that promise came to fruition. A 55-year-old woman has been arrested for sharing, quote, inaccurate information about the identity of the Southport attacker. I'm assuming, I don't know her social media or what the post actually said. I haven't been able to find it. But I'm assuming she called out a Muslim illegal immigrant, and she identified this individual as an illegal immigrant. And they said that that was misinformation or inaccurate information about the identity of this attacker, this stabber. Okay, so the officials there are using this as a stark reminder. They're using this arrest as a stark reminder that, hey, you better not share what we deem inaccurate information. So I'm going to play this here for you. This is Sky News reporting on the arrest of the 55-year-old.
We have some breaking news now, and a woman has been arrested by Cheshire Police in relation to an inaccurate information on social media about the attacker in the Southport murders. It says a 55-year-old woman from near Chester was arrested earlier today, Thursday the 8th, of course, on suspicion of publishing written material to stir up racial hatred and false communications. She is currently being held in police custody. Chief Superintendent Alison Ross has also made a statement saying that this is in relation to a post which has been fueled by malicious and the protest rather has been fueled by malicious and inaccurate communications online. It is a stark reminder of the dangers of posting information on social media platforms without checking the accuracy. It's also a warning that we are all accountable for our actions.
So there you have it. I'm going to get to what this social media post, obviously she shared something about the attacker's identity, and that was deemed the inaccurate information. Most likely she accused the attacker of being an illegal immigrant or maybe a Muslim of some kind. I'm going to talk about the stabbing. Okay, so this attacker, I'm not going to do what the mainstream does. I'm going to talk about what the attacker did, because that needs to be brought to light. So this 55-year-old woman was arrested, and she was taken into custody on suspicion of publishing written material to stir up racial hatred and false communications. What does false communication even mean? So the victims in this case, there are three girls. Her name is Bibi, Alice, Elise. They're all ages 6, 9, 7, and they died after being stabbed in Southport while attending a Taylor Swift dance class on July 29th. 8 other children and 2 adults had been seriously injured in the incident. And this woman who was arrested, for some odd reason, I can't find her name, but she was posting online about this incident, about the attacker, the stabber. And she's now being accused by the government that she's fueling hatred about this attacker, the stabber, who killed children, 3 baby girls, ages 6, 9, and 7. Okay, they were at a dance class. And I'm going to get to the rest of this story here. It's truly traumatic. It's crazy. It's tyrannical. I can't believe this is happening on planet Earth, where the criminals are deemed the citizens, the voters. They're protected by the government, and the law-abiding citizenry, they're deemed the criminals. All right, I'm back next. Woohoo! Hey, thanks so much for joining me here on Conservative Cat. Gonna get to some of your comments. Maybe if our friends across the pond closed their borders, they wouldn't have this kind of chaos. The UK is about a few years ahead of us. It's coming here. Yes, that's why I bring up this story. Ryan, the Ryan Mac Show. Find him on YouTube. Great show. Always amplify truth tellers. Recently, there has been talk about this is actually kind of crazy. There's been talk about Rumble and X being not shut down, but these advertisers are threatening pulling their advertising dollars from X and Rumble specifically if they don't overhaul their platforms and change their platforms to be more politically correct, right? And to go with the status quo. So Dunkin' Donuts said that they're going to be pulling their advertising dollars from X. They're also going to be pulling their advertising dollars from Rumble if they don't remove certain platforms or certain truth tellers on these platforms. So it's an election year, right? So boycott Dunkin' Donuts if you can. I'm a sucker for Dunkin' Donuts coffee. It sucks, but I'm going to be boycotting them because they're boycotting Rumble and X unless they drop all the truth tellers on those platforms. And I'm calling for everyone to give them the Bud Light treatment, right? Dunkin' Donuts. Seriously, these companies, they think that they can bully us into submission, and it's just not. I think that we should stick together and turn Dunkin' Donuts into Bud Light. What do you think? But you can always find the Ryan Mac Show on Rumble for as long as Rumble's around, right? GARM shut down after X and Rumble sued. GARM is the World Economic Forum wing of the advertising power. Yeah, the GARM. I mean, what a crappy acronym that is. But yeah, they're all part of it. So they control like 90% of the advertising dollars that go out onto these platforms. And they're using their power to try to bend the knee of Elon Musk and Chris Pavlovsky. I think that's the guy who runs Rumble. They're trying to get these platforms to remove truth tellers off of their platforms, and it's scary. That's scary. Now we know that the government did that with Facebook, with YouTube, with Google. They went and they said, hey, you need to remove all kinds of information about the Hunter Biden laptop. So it's an election cycle. We can expect this. I was expecting this, where they're going to try to shut down X and Rumble, because these are the only two platforms left, or these are the only platforms that truth tellers can go to. And if you don't want to hear MSNBC, if you don't want to hear that Kamala Harris is bright and sharp, and that Joe Biden isn't a senile mess. If you don't want to hear that, and if you actually want the truth and you want to go to platforms like Rumble and X, you should be able to. You should be able to listen to whoever you want, eat whatever you want, say whatever you want, share whatever you want. And in this case, in the UK, you've got people just retweeting things and facing prosecution. You've got people selling anti-immigration stickers, political paraphernalia, and they're like selling these anti-immigration stickers, and then they're winding up in prison for 2 years. Meanwhile, the guy who rapes a woman 12 times gets 180 hours community service. That actually happened in the UK. Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Join me on the stream. We've been talking about streaming platforms. You can find me on Rumble. I am also on X. I don't stream to X, but I am there and I share clips of the show. These are the only two platforms left, okay, for truth tellers, and the government doesn't like that. So GARM, this globalist World Economic Forum-esque organization, is now going after X and Rumble. These companies like Dunkin' Donuts, they're boycotting Rumble and X unless they drop all of the truth tellers on these platforms. So unless you get rid of Donald Trump Jr., get rid of all the conservatives. Unless you get rid of all of the conservatives, then we're going to drop our advertising dollars on Rumble and X. And these people, they control 90% of the advertising. Okay, so this is going to really hurt Rumble and X as far as revenue goes, but they're not backing down, right? So Chris Pavlovsky said, no, we don't discriminate. All cultures are welcome on Rumble. We are not going to get rid of the right-wing culture that you want us to. So Dunkin' Donuts, boycott them. They think that they can bully us into submission. If we stick together and turn Dunkin' Donuts into Bud Light, I think we've got enough fight in us to get them to bend the knee rather than they get us to bend the knee. So this is an election year, right? They're trying to deplatform truth tellers, people who are willing to say, hey, no, Joe Biden's senile. Hey, no, Kamala Harris, she has openly admitted that she's Indian. And Kamala Harris is dumber than a box of rocks, right? So, I mean, if you don't want to hear MSNBC talk about how much JD Vance wants to be Tim Walz, come on over to Rumble. Go listen to the truth tellers. If that's what you want, then that's what you want, and you should be able to watch that. But they're trying to remove Rumble and X now because we're getting close to an election season. So before I took the break, I was telling you a little bit about this UK matter where this woman, she was arrested for sharing, quote, inaccurate information about the identity of a stabber, a murderer who killed 3 children. Okay, so like I said, even if, and it's not the position and it's not of the authority of the UK to go out and start arresting people for sharing inaccurate information. You can share inaccurate information. Who cares? Right? I don't understand, because who are the arbiters of truth? The government? I mean, what you share today that's inaccurate today might be true tomorrow. Okay, so if you share something like the CIA was behind the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, if you share something like that today, perhaps it is true. It's just not been proven yet. So, like, if it's true, then it's true, but it just might not be true today. It probably will be true in the coming days. So, like I said, even if it was their job, which it's not, to police inaccurate information, why would they care if that inaccurate information just fueled hatred over an evil psycho who went on a stabbing spree and killed 3 baby girls? Okay, really? Like, think about that. Okay, so who cares if I spread misinformation about a guy who stabbed children? Like, we're really coming to the defense of a stabber, somebody who killed babies? Oh gosh, I just don't even know. So I'm going to get to the rest of the story and what the chief superintendent, Alison Ross of the UK police said. She said, quote, "We have all seen the violent disorder that has taken place across the UK over the past week, much of which has been fueled by malicious and inaccurate communications online." So when this individual, this chief of police, says violent disorder, he's not talking about the innocent people who were hurt and killed by this stabber. No, 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 no. He's talking about the inaccurate communications online posted about the killer. He's not talking about the killer as the violent disorder. He's talking about the communications about the killer. That's how tyrannical, that's how deranged these people are. They criminalize thought that isn't politically correct. So I don't know what this woman said. I'm willing to bet that this woman who got arrested in the UK, and make no mistake, folks, this is going to happen here. Commenter Ryan, he points out, and you guys can always text in, comment on the YouTube channel, 309-451-9299. That's the text line here at Cities 92.9. He says, the UK is about a few years ahead of us. It's coming here. Maybe if our friends across the pond just closed their borders, they wouldn't have this chaos or this violent disorder. Exactly. They wouldn't have men killing 3 baby girls at a dance class. Okay. They wouldn't have it. So we have open borders right now. You and I know that. In Kankakee, there was, I believe, somebody killed this, and it was totally preventable because the guy shouldn't have even been in the country. So, like I said, this is deranged. They're criminalizing thought. They're criminalizing political incorrectness. I'm going to be right back. We're going to wrap this story up, and I do want to get to MSNBC because there's this guy on MSNBC that I've got to talk about. He says that Tim Walz, quote, is going to teach voters that there's joy in having a boss who is black and a black woman. So he goes, quote, there's no joy, or there's no better or greater joy in having your boss be a black woman. That's what this guy says. Absolutely. I've had enough with the racial gobbledygook. So I'll be right back. It's Conservative Cat. Good morning. Go ahead, smash that like button. When we come back, we're going to be talking about a reporter telling MSNBC that Harris's past damaging moments are on the mind of the campaign, and this is possibly why she is avoiding interviews. So we'll be right back. Woohoo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. You guys can always find me on YouTube for more show. That's Conservative Cat. Type it in your search bar. When we come back at the top of the hour, there's quite a few things I want to hit. Now, this MSNBC contributor, his name is Anand Garahadis. I think I'm saying that right. He claimed, I don't really care. He's an MSNBC contributor. Who really cares? Who really even watches this show? But this is kind of funny because he claims that Tim Walz is going to teach white people that there's no greater joy than having your boss be a black woman. And he's going to teach voters that is the joy. And it's just completely nonsensical. But it's also not going to win over swing voters. People really don't care about this racism, this racist gobbledygook. Nobody cares about that, and I'm sick and tired of these people projecting their obsession with skin color onto us. And this isn't going to help the swing voter. I'll be right back. This is Conservative Cat. We're going to chat about the MSNBC contributor saying those things about Tim Walz and how he's going to teach voters that having a black boss is just absolutely fantastic. We'll be right back. Hey, good morning. I so do appreciate it. If you're watching, smash that like button, and let's get to some of your busy comments. Me and my dog loving the cool temperatures this morning. Going to take the boat out this weekend. Yes, it is going to be a beautiful weekend, and I think that humidity is finally going to leave, and I'm just all for it. Me and the dog love the walks in the morning. When we come back, there's so much I want to get to. One reporter saying that, hey, the reason why I think Kamala Harris is avoiding the press is because she has had some pretty damaging moments. One of the damaging moments that comes to my mind is when Kamala Harris sat down and she talked about being the border czar, talked about not going to the border. Gosh, I'm going to try to find that. It's a one-on-one. I think it was US Today she had, and she this was unscripted. This was a sit down interview, and this was where she admits that she's never been to Europe. Okay, this was Lester Holt in 2021. Yes. So we've seen some very damaging moments, and this could be why Kamala Harris has avoided any kind of interview or taking questions unscripted from the press for at least 19 days now, at least. So she can't hide in her basement under the illusion of safety because the pandemic is over. So why is she hiding? It's probably because this woman has had some damaging moments, specifically this interview with Lester Holt. I want to talk about this because this was the last time really she had like a one-on-one sit down, where we remember she says, "Oh, I've never been to Europe." When he asks her, "Hey, have you been to the border?" She goes, "We've been to the border. We've been to the border." And she goes, "You've been to the border?" And she goes, "No, I haven't. But I've also never been to Europe," which is kind of weird that the vice president of the United States has never been to Europe. But I digress. So, like I said, where is she? She's probably trying to hide in her basement because she has these damaging moments when she goes unscripted. So we're going to chat about that. She's just blatantly stupid. I don't know what kind of IQ she has, but I think she knows that she's blatantly stupid and kind of naive, and she's not really sure because she's a puppet. She wants to run from the press, okay? And JD Vance, he came out and he said, hey, he was out in front of the Air Force 2 where Kamala Harris was at, and he asks the gaggle of press, he goes, "Where is she? Is she giving you an explanation why she's not taking your questions and why she's not holding press conferences as a sitting vice president and also the potential nominee, likely nominee of the Democrat Party, presidential nominee? Has she given you any reason as to why she's hiding?" She's hiding her mental disabilities, much like Joe Biden's mental decline. Okay, so she hid Joe Biden's mental decline. She let us all think that Joe was fit as a fiddle. Yeah, where is Joe Biden? I don't even know where he's at. Nobody's even talked about him in the press. You know what else the press is not talking about? The assassination attempt. I think it's been like 26 days since that assassination attempt, and we have yet to learn anything about the shooter, why he was there that day. Even though we got more body cam footage, which just is crazy. The Secret Service told local police. Local police said, "Hey, we should probably put somebody up there on this roof where Thomas Crooks wound up taking a shot." And in the body cam footage, you can hear Secret Service members say, "Oh yeah, we'll put somebody up there. Don't worry, we'll put somebody up there." They never put anybody up there. So anyway, nobody's talking about Joe Biden. Nobody's talking about the assassination attempt. And this new body cam footage that we see, the Secret Service agents, or I don't even know if they were Secret Service agents, to be honest with you. I think that they were HSIs. So these were the Homeland Security investigators who are not in any way, shape, or form trained on protecting a protectee. They're just, Homeland Security, and those are Mayorkas's guys, right? And come on, Mayorkas doesn't like Donald Trump. We know that. He went after Donald Trump, tried to remove him from the ballot. Okay. So, like I said, Kamala Harris, she's avoiding the press. She hid Joe Biden's mental decline like she's trying to hide her mental disabilities now. And it just proves how much she disrespects you, the American people. She disrespects you. Okay, she would be coming out and talking to the press if she actually respected you. She didn't obtain any votes. You would think that she would be on a media blitz trying to put herself out there and and describe to you her stances on certain policies, especially considering we didn't get a primary from her. During a primary, you're supposed to talk about your policies, what you would do as president, and we didn't get any of that. You would think that she would have enough respect for the American people to come out now via press conferences, interview, even though she didn't run in the primary, and talk about her stances on issues. But she won't, and she's hiding. And perhaps it's because she has some damaging moments. So we're going to chat a little bit about that. I do want to revisit the UK thing, and I really want to get off it, but it's so important. And I do want to talk about Andy No. He's down there on the ground. He's a journalist, really good journalist, and he was on X and he was posting how there were these masked Muslims in black. They're all black, dressed in black, and they've got these sticks and they're doing, they're carrying out political violence in the name of Allah. So that's happening in the UK. The police have actually stayed away from this. Now, I don't know if it's because it's so bad that they don't want to get hurt, the police, or they've been instructed to ignore the violence that is being carried out by these Muslims and the Muslim patrols who are carrying out like this vigilante violence. So this woman, she shares this out, so-called inaccurate information about a stabber, and she shares out inaccurate information about his identity. I'm willing to bet she shared out the fact that he's probably an illegal immigrant, that he's probably Muslim, and now she's facing possible jail time for sharing that information out that they've deemed inaccurate. The government. So we're going to get to Andy No, who's on the ground. He's a journalist, and he talks about what he's seeing there in the UK. Woo! Hey, it's Friday, and it's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you're on YouTube, and text me 309-451-9299. Everyone knows Kamala Harris. She tosses word salad the moment she gets asked a question. She can't go unscripted. She's just bad at it. And then you combine that with the fact that she is the most liberal politician and the most radical politician, aside from her running mate, Tim Walz, that this country has ever seen. She is the most radical politician that this country has ever seen. Like I said, GovTrack, they deemed her the most liberal senator of all time. And that was above Bernie Sanders. And how did they come to that? Well, it was determined objectively. Okay, they looked at legislation and they said, hey, she hasn't co-sponsored anything with Republicans. She hasn't co-sponsored any kind of bills with Republicans, and she has the lowest numbers of any other U.S. senator of co-sponsored legislation, which means she's not working across the aisle. So that's how they deemed her the most liberal senator in the U.S. Senate. So there is this massive media campaign underway, and they're trying to create the illusion that she's popular. I saw something, Harry Sisen, I think is his name. I don't know. He's paid by the Biden campaign to go out there and post these random things on social media. And I'm going to pull it up now. I just saw this image and my jaw dropped when I saw this image. It's a cooked up image. It's fake. It's not real. They've got a crowd of people in front of Air Force Two, and Harry Sisen, he says, hope, dedication, patriotism. That's the Kamala Harris campaign. And when you look at the photo, I'm just going to share it. And when you look at the photo here, you look at it and you can see it's clearly photoshopped because people are like filming the plane, right? They've got their phones up and everybody's phone has a different screen on it. It's not the plane, it's something else. So you can clearly see that this is a photoshopped, and they've got social media influencers out there like Harry Sisen pushing out this inaccurate information. Quite literally, this is inaccurate information. I look at it and I'm like, oh wow, that's a doctored photo. That never happened. But this guy's putting it out there. And how many people have seen this? Thousands of people have seen this. 191,000 people have seen this doctored photo, and they're trying to make her seem more popular than she is. There's this massive crowd in front of this Air Force Two plane, and there's Harris Walz signs, but clearly this is very, very photoshopped because you can see everybody's phones in this picture, and when you zoom in, everybody's phone has a different screen, and it's not the plane. So it just proves that this is photoshopped. I wonder if they're going to go after Harry Seisen for spreading inaccurate information. Probably not. The UK did go after this woman, and eventually this is going to happen in the United States. That's why I'm bringing you this story about this woman who was arrested by the UK for sharing so-called inaccurate information about a stabber. Like I said, I don't really understand why. First off, the UK shouldn't be going after and policing inaccurate information. That's not really their job. But even if it was, why would they care if someone fueled hatred over an evil psycho who went on a stabbing spree and killed 3 babies, 3 young children? Even if she shared the most inaccurate information in the world about this guy, apparently she shared inaccurate information about the guy's identity. Perhaps she said he was an illegal immigrant and he's not. Perhaps he is, and the government has deemed him not illegal. Perhaps she called him Muslim and he's not, and she is facing possible jail time. She was arrested because she shared inaccurate information about the identity of the Southport attacker. Some crazy things are going on in the UK. They're 3 years ahead of us, so we can kind of guess that this will happen in the United States. Something like this is going to happen in the United States. We've already seen the open borders, much like the UK. Something like this is going to wind up happening where we have masked illegal immigrants. In this case, they're Muslims, and they're carrying out political violence in the name of Allah. Like, that is actually happening. There's a journalist there, and he describes the scene. He describes what's going on the ground. I want to play this for you. He's a great journalist, Andy No. He's on X. If you're not following him, you should. Here we go.
I'm here in Bordesley Green, an area in Birmingham, England. It looks completely peaceful here, like many other neighborhoods, but just 24 hours ago, at that roundabout there, were scenes of violence as hundreds of masked militants dressed in black mobilized for a so-called Muslim patrol. And it was also right here where I'm standing. The Sky News reporter, during a breaking news hit, was accosted by people who ran up, some of them armed with melee weapons, giving a political statement on camera. This area, Birmingham, where I'm at, is about 60% Muslim, and it's been the latest outburst of political violence. And now it's been about a week of violence in different towns and cities across England, involving immigrant groups, involving English populations and communities, sometimes battling it out on the streets in chaotic scenes. There's been hundreds of arrests. The violent protests and riots have led to an accusation from some, particularly those who are protesting against mass migration, accusing the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, of two-tier policing. They've actually started using a hashtag called two-tier Keir to voice their particular grievance. Leading up to the riots that happened just in the last week before that, there have been other instances of migrant and immigrant and Muslim communities that have rioted in other parts of England that critics say were not met with dog units or riot squads. In fact, they said that in places like in Rochdale, near Manchester, where a police station was attacked by Muslim extremists, there was no police presence at all in those acts of violence.
So there you go. That's him. He's on the ground. He's talking about how there is a Muslim population carrying out political violence in that country. They are dressed in all black. They're called Muslim patrols, and they're carrying out some sort of vigilante violence. He's there on the ground, folks, and there is clear that he's witnessing this mob violence happening from the illegal immigrant population. So, like I said, the UK authorities say, quote, "It's a stark reminder of the dangers of posting information on social media platforms without checking the accuracy. It also acts as a warning that we are all accountable for our actions, whether that be online or in person." Again, this woman just shared the identity, the so-called inaccurate identity of a man who stabbed 3 baby children. Okay, so, and they said that she was fueling hatred because she shared this inaccurate information. It appears that the authorities are trying to blame the internet users for rioting in the streets, people rioting in the streets, many of whom are the the people officials are trying to protect from online communications. The killers, the stabbers, they're trying to protect them from dissent. Rather than condemn all violence, they have set up a task force dedicated to thought crimes because they believe migrant crime, it's a total myth. You can't call them migrants. You can't call them illegals. You can't call them Muslims because that's inaccurate information, and migrant crime is a myth. Thousands of leftists, including far left extremists like Antifa, have mobilized across England. And, they did this over a hoax. Okay, so there was a mass mobilization of far left extremists like Antifa mobilizing, and they did this over a hoax that a far right had planned a night of 100 riots. Okay, so this was misinformation, actual misinformation that was put out there that the people on the far right were going to plan all of these riots. And in response, the far left mobilized across England over this hoax. So Nick Lowles is his name. He's an Antifa activist, and he's the head of the SPLC-style charity Hope Not Hate, which celebrates that the gatherings have helped spread leftist political propaganda on front pages of all the newspapers, okay? So this is a left-wing organization. It's a charity. It's called Hope Not Hate. Nick, okay, just days ago, he spread this hoax that a Muslim woman and Muslim women were being targeted in acid attacks. So people were throwing acid on Muslimism, which is it was completely false. It was deemed false. And his false claims were amplified by lawmakers, and it led to these violent Antifa Muslim patrol groups mobilizing on the streets of several English cities there in the UK. And the reason why I bring this up again, we are going to see this in just a couple of years in the United States. I mean, we're just a few years behind the UK here. So I'm curious, are they going to go after Nick Lowles, who spread this hoax that Muslim women were being targeted with buckets of acid by the far right? And that's what led to these mass riots, Antifa-led riots, far left extremists. They mobilized over this hoax. Is he going to be arrested over that inaccurate information that was intended to stir up hatred? No, I don't think so, because it's a two-tiered police state over there. They aren't going to go after Nick from the Hope Not Hate organization because he's not of a certain type of political dissent. He agrees with the government approved narrative. So, like I said, they cannot control the narrative anymore. So the authorities are criminalizing. They're criminalizing politically incorrect things. To say that this is tyrannical, that this is absurd, would be an understatement. The government has not only created the problem, but they're shutting up citizens from dissenting from their narrative under the guise of hatred, which makes absolutely no sense. It makes no sense. And they're trying to criminalize thought, political dissent. They're the ones who created this problem of illegal mass immigration. Now they're trying to go after people who have issues with that problem of mass illegal immigration. So I've got to take a quick break. But when we come back, we're going to talk about the MSNBC contributor, Anand Garahadas. He talks about how Tim Walz, he gets out there and he says, quote, I'm going to teach white people, or he says Tim Walz will teach white people that there is joy in having your boss be black and be a black woman. So he says that's Tim Walz's like a thing, and that it's going to, it's a great thing for that ticket, the Kamala Harris Tim Walz ticket. And he said that Tim Walz will teach white people that there is joy in having your boss be a black woman. This is nonsensical, and it's definitely not going to win over the swing voters. So I'll be right back. We'll chat about it next. Good morning. Go ahead, smash that like button. Like I said, we're going to talk about this MSNBC contributor, Anand Garahatis is his name. And he claims that Tim Walz is going to be this guy who teaches voters that having a black woman as your boss is a great thing. So this is why he supports a Tim Walz, a Kamala Harris ticket. He says that he hopes that Tim Walz will teach people that having a black woman boss is a good thing. So we're going to chat about him. It's just complete racial gobbledygook. That's the best way I can describe this. And then a little bit later, we're going to talk about why Kamala Harris is not talking to the press. There's no press conferences, no interviews. And a reporter openly admits, her name is Jasmine Wright, she told MSNBC that Kamala Harris has some past damaging moments, and these damaging moments are the reason why her campaign is hiding her from the media. Okay, so we remember a damaging moment for her. It was Lester Holt when she was interviewing with him in 2021, where she goes, "Oh yeah, I've been to the border. She goes, quote, "We've been to the border. We've been to the border." And he goes, "You've been to the border?" And then she says, "Well, no, but I've also never been to Europe," which is just kind of weird that a VP hasn't been to Europe. But anyway, race baiting. It's just racial division on MSNBC. I don't even really like doing these stories, but you need to know that this guy says these things. I don't think people realize that, because there's not a whole lot of people that watch that show. It's very far leftist fringe that watch MSNBC. But what's dangerous is, people grab onto these talking points like CNN and all these other alphabet news networks, mainstream news, and they'll gravitate to these talking points, and then they all repeat them. So I don't think a whole lot of people even watch MSNBC or CNN. But when you have literally no other place to go, and these are the only approved media outlets, then you're going to have people, if you repeat something enough, and this is their hope, you're going to have people eventually believing it. That having a black boss or a black woman boss is like the most important thing this election cycle. It's not the economy, it's not crime, it's not immigration, it's not these things, but rather you need to vote this way, because if you don't, you're a bigot. Okay, so eventually, if you repeat that enough, their hope is that eventually people, will feel guilty and experience white guilt, and that's the reason why they vote for Kamala Harris. That they're in the polling place and they're like, "Oh gosh, if I don't vote for her, am I a bigot?" That's what their hope is, to get people to second guess themselves and to make them feel guilty for voting for somebody like Donald Trump. That's what their goal is. But like I said, Kamala Harris hasn't been seen really by the press. She's been in rallies. Yes, she's been in rallies, and she's, repeated the same speech over and over again. Jesse Waters, yeah, on Fox News, he did this great bit. I could probably pull it up here. He did this great bit where he does a side-by-side of her speech, one in Wisconsin, the other in Michigan, and it was on the same day. And he does like a side-by-side on Fox News. A speech so nice, she said it twice. So she definitely needs new speech writers, because this woman just keeps repeating the same speech over and over again. Here we go. I'm going to play this for you. You're going to love it. Here we go.
So good to be back in Michigan. Listen, let me tell you, I am clear. The path to the White House runs right through this state. And listen, I am clear. The path to the White House runs right through this state. I took on perpetrators of all kinds. I took on perpetrators of all kinds and had a summer job at McDonald's. I had a summer job at McDonald's. So hear me when I say, hear me, Detroit, when I say, I know Donald Trump's type. I know Donald Trump's type. And are we ready to fight for it?
A speech so nice, she said it twice. Yes. So Kamala Harris, like I said, she just repeats the same speeches over and over again. She's not interacting with the press at all. She's not holding press conferences. She's also not taking any questions. She's not doing sit-down interviews. And I just played, here we go. I'm going to play it one more time. Jesse Waters on Fox News, he played it. It's a side-by-side. Okay, so it's absolutely incredible. He's got a side-by-side of her speeches, one in Wisconsin on Wednesday and one in Michigan on Wednesday. Now, she is still going and she's rallying and she's, delivering speeches, but they're all of the same speech. So she's just like repeating the same speech over and over again at all of these different rallies. Donald Trump, if you've ever been to his rallies, he mixes it up all the time. I've gone to a couple of them and no speech is the same. He always has something a little bit different to say. He might hit the same talking points, immigration, economy, crime. He'll hit those points, but here's a side-by-side. You guys can watch it on the YouTube Conservative Cat Show, but you guys, for the audio listeners, there is a side-by-side, and Jesse Waters, he cuts this. He's got the Wisconsin speech on Wednesday, and then he's got the Michigan speech on Wednesday, and he goes back and forth, and it's the same speech.
So good to be back in Michigan. Listen, let me tell you, I am clear. The path to the White House runs right through this state. And listen, I am clear. The path to the White House runs right through this state. I took on perpetrators of all kinds. I took on perpetrators of all kinds and had a summer job at McDonald's. So hear me when I say, hear me, Detroit, when I say, I know Donald Trump's type. I know Donald Trump's type. And are we ready to fight for it? And when we fight, we win.
Kamala's plagiarizing herself and Trump. I thought fight, fight, fight was his line.
So a speech so nice, she says it twice. She's just on this she's just going and she's repeating the same speech. So that brings me to this story. A reporter, she talks about why she's not interacting with the media at all. She's not taking she's not taking questions. She's not doing sit-down interviews. And really, it's disrespectful to the American people. And I'll get to that here in a second. But this reporter, her name is Jasmine Wright. She told MSNBC that Kamala Harris has had some past damaging moments, and that might be the reason why her campaign is hiding her from the media. She's not popular, and the media is doing everything that they can to create the illusion that she's popular. I just shared with you this cooked up photo of a huge crowd in front of Air Force Two, and this just did not happen. There was no crowd in front of Air Force Two. They cooked up a photo. Harry Sison is out there retweeting the photo. 191,000 people have seen that photo, and it's not true. She doesn't draw crowds like that. Donald Trump does. You don't have to fake popularity when it comes to Donald Trump. You don't have to convince anyone that Donald Trump is popular because he actually is. So I want to share this clip with you. This is Jasmine Wright, and she talks with the MSNBC host about why Kamala Harris is not interacting with the press at all or sitting down to do interviews.
Is the vice president planning on holding her own news conference anytime soon?
Yeah, Jose. Well, I think that is actually the question of the hour. So it is not that she hasn't engaged press, but it has certainly been on the vice president's own terms, as kind of it has been for the last 3 years that she's been vice president. She goes back and she talks to the press on the plane. Those are typically off the record comments. If she does want to make a statement on the news of the day, we've seen her approach the press waiting under the wing of Air Force Two to give a statement, but then she turns away before questions, before answering any questions. And so I think that the public is expecting, or certainly the media is expecting, for her to engage more with reporters now that she has replaced Biden at the top of the ticket. Now, I know just from covering her the last really 6 years that her engagements with the press are very
Okay, really quick, I wanna jump in here. I think it's really funny that she comes in and she says, "Oh, she replaced she replaced Joe Biden at the top of the ticket." So it's kind of like a subtle. She knows that this was an undemocratic process. She says that she replaced Joe Biden and she wasn't elected. And as of today, there is no pandemic. So she can't hide in her basement under the illusion that it's for safety or whatever when Joe Biden did it and he campaigned from his basement during the pandemic. Like I said, she's doing it probably because she knows she's naive. She knows that she has a mental disability. And she's hiding because she knows that she can't talk unscripted, or at least the campaign is hiding her because they know that she can't talk and speak to somebody unscripted. So let's take a listen.
Certainly, as she's been vice president, we've seen some kind of damaging moments when her speaking to the press, particularly that first interview she did in 2021 with Lester Holt about her work on immigration. And so I think that is something that's always been on the mind of her office and the vice president herself. Of course, we've reported that she has been doing some media training over her vice presidency. So I think that that's the major question, and time really, they say, is running short for her to kind of present herself in front of the media.
Yeah, although she's been doing a very good job of presenting herself in front of thousands of people in events throughout and much of these very critical states.
Do you see what he's doing there? Do you see what he's doing there? He's trying to run interference. So this reporter, who I don't believe is any kind of conservative by any means, Jasmine Wright, she points out that she's had some damaging moments like this one. Let's share this. This is her interview with Lester Holt. It's a good one from 2021.
Do you have any plans to visit the border?
At some point, we are going to the border. We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making.
You have.
Oh, okay. Yes. So that is the damaging moments that we're talking about here. Okay. So, like I said, that reporter who talks about these damaging moments, she said that she's running out of time to get in front of the press, to get in front of interview and do interviews to talk about her policy. She didn't run in a primary, so she's doing a disservice to the American people because the American people aren't sure where she stands on these issues because she's not answering questions. Okay, and I love how this woman says, I think that the public is expecting, or certainly the media is expecting, her to exchange more with reporters now that she's replaced Biden at the top of the ticket. So you see, that's a subconscious admission there. And like I said, this reporter, Jasmine Wright, she's not on the right by any means. Okay. She's not a right winger. She makes a subconscious admission here that this was an undemocratic process and that she replaced Joe Biden and she wasn't elected. And she has an obligation to get in front of these people, the American people, and talk about her policies and where she stands. Okay. So we're going to be right back. I'm going to wrap this up and then we're going to get to the MSNBC contributor. I've wanted to get to this story all day. He talks about Tim Walz and how he's got a lot to teach the American people through his role and culture, and that he is going to teach voters that having a Black woman as a boss is a good thing and it'll bring joy to your life. I don't think that that's a sentiment that's going to fare well with swing voters. I don't know. Let me know in the comments section what you think. 309-451-9299. You can also text me. I'll be right back. I absolutely love this bit with Lester Holt. I'll never forget this. This goes down in history as one of the best moments, best Kamala moments. Oh gosh, the DNC didn't want her in the primaries. Yes. So like I said, she has an obligation to get in front of voters. I'm going to break this reporter down even further. This Jasmine Wright, she says, quote, I think that it is actually the question of the hour. when she was asked if she thinks that Kamala Harris is going to be holding her own press conference anytime soon. So it's not that she hasn't engaged the press, but it's certainly been on the vice president's own terms, as it has kind of been for the last 3 years as she's been vice president. She goes back and she talks to the press on the plane, and typically it's off the record comments. And it's all done on her terms when she interacts with the press. And basically, I mean, Jasmine Wright, when she was asked, hey, do you think she's going to be holding a press conference anytime soon? The simple answer is no, she's not going to be holding a press conference anytime soon because she's busy hiding. She's hiding her mental disabilities, just like she hid Joe Biden's mental decline. She did that, and that proves how much she disrespects you, the American people. You don't hide from the press if you think you're smart. She knows how painfully naive she is. She knows that she shouldn't be in the position that she is. I like this. This is what Jasmine Wright, that reporter who said that the reason why Kamala Harris is not getting out in front of the press and doing press conferences is because she's had some damaging moments in the past and she wants to try to avoid those, like with Lester Holt, where she says, we've been to the border. We've been to the border. You've been to the border? And I haven't been to Europe. Okay. But this is what Jasmine Wright says. If she wants to make a statement on the news of the day, we've seen her approach the press under the wing of Air Force 2 to give a statement, but then she turns away and she doesn't answer questions. Yes. Thank you for the play-by-play. Yes, we know that, Jasmine, right? We know that that's how she rolls, and she does everything on her terms, and she provides a statement, but she won't exchange. She won't answer to the American people and be asked questions. And like I said, this woman reporter was asked if Harris would hold a press conference, and she basically said, well, I think she'd rather run away from the press. She doesn't really want to interact with the press to avoid damaging moments, as if that's okay. Okay, it's her job to be transparent with the American people and interact with the press. That's quite literally. I mean, you're supposed to be adversarial with the government if you're a journalist. That's my position. And a lot of people probably will say, oh, that's not what a journalist is supposed to be. No, that's what a journalist is supposed to be. You're supposed to, what was it? Edward R. Murrow said it best. And it's the quote. I considered getting a tattoo of it. I'm not going to get any more tattoos but I considered getting it on my arm, where Edward R. Murrow says a nation of wolves a nation of sheep will beget a government of wolves. That's what Edward R. Murrow, one of the best journalists ever in American history, he comes out and he says, hey, a nation of sheep will beget a government of wolves. So if you're a sheep and you allow and you're not adversarial with the government, they're going to run amok and they're going to kill you. They're going to become wolves. And that's where we're at. We have a bunch of sheep, and journalists aren't supposed to be sheep. Okay. They're supposed to be adversarial with the government. That's their role. So like I said, as of today, Trump and Kamala have committed to at least one debate. That's September 10th. It's going to be a juicy one, I'm sure. The media is going to have to resort to a PR damage control after, that debate, because they're going to have to make Kamala Harris look less like an idiot. And I'd imagine there's going to be a lot of, you're racist. You're racist. How could you say this about Kamala Harris? You're being racist. Trump was very racist in that debate, and he, demeaned her as a woman and, was racist towards her because she's black or Indian or whatever. So like I said, these people, these are tyrants, and they don't want to be transparent with you, the American people. That's why she's avoiding the press, and she knows that she has a mental disability. Sheep will pull their own teeth because they have because wolves have teeth. Yeah, I don't know. Sheep. Yeah, I love that quote. Edward R. Murrow, it's a great quote. I thought about getting it tattooed when I decided to go and get my journalism degree, because It's just so true. And we've really lost that as a nation, as the ability to be adversarial with the government and have it be seen as admirable. I think anybody who's adversarial with their government, either at a local level or a national level, state level, if you are an adversary of the government, that should be admired, something that, a lot of people can't do. Woohoo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Like I said, Kamala Harris, she has not interacted with the press at all. She's not taking questions. She's not doing interviews. Now, she's getting up and she's spouting off the same speech at every single one of her rallies. A speech so nice, she says it twice, right? But she is committed to one debate on September 10th. So it's probably going to be really good. I bet it'll be a juicy debate. Most likely the media is going to have to launch some sort of PR damage control campaign, and they're going to call Donald Trump racist after the debate 100%. But I want to leave you with this quote when it comes to this story. The media, they should be outraged that she's avoided them for at least 20 days. At this point, she has not answered questions of the media for at least 20 days. And the journalist, the true journalist, should be outraged, because the role of the journalist is to be adversarial with government. That's just the way it goes. Okay. Media is supposed to hate the government. They're supposed to have a natural born hatred of the government, and they're supposed to be adversarial with the government. And you have to, as a journalist, in the back of your mind, constantly be thinking, okay, you're out to get me. You're out to get me. And I'm going to be adversarial with you. You're not supposed to be a mouthpiece for the government. You're not supposed to print their press releases that they send you. You're supposed to ask questions, and ask hard questions. And the Edward R. Murrow quote, I just absolutely love. It's so great. I thought about getting it tattooed on my arm at one point, but Edward R. Murrow, he said, and he was a great journalist, he said, a nation of sheep will beget a government of wolves. So if you're not adversarial, if you just, are weak, and you don't put up a fight with the government as a journalist, you're going to get a government that has just run amok, and they are wolves, and they're going to attack the American people. So the role of the journalist is to be adversarial. Not everybody can do that. Not everybody can be in conflict with people, and conflict makes you very uncomfortable. That's why the role of a journalist is so important. These people should be more outraged that Kamala Harris is disrespecting the American people by hiding from them. All right, I do want to shift gears. Let's talk about MSNBC contributor Anand Garahadis is his name, I suppose. Now he claims that Tim Walz is going to teach white people that having a black woman as a boss is a good thing, and it will actually bring joy to your life. So let's take a listen. Here we go.
The significance of this man is that he is an older white man in a moment in which the far right is trying to convince white people that the future is treacherous for them, trying to convince men that the future is treacherous for them. And here is an older white man, a coach, a soldier, who is very hard to dismiss as some kind of effete coastal elite, who is telling older folks and white people, you do not need to be afraid of the future. There is joy in the future. There is joy in having your boss be a black woman. There is joy in what is coming. And I think he is going to teach lots of people, in addition to whatever role he plays in an election and in the White House, he's going to teach lots of people through his role in the culture that they're going to be okay, and that there's joy on the far side of realizing a multiracial democracy in this country.
Who is this guy, honestly? So he says Walz is telling older folks and white people, you don't need to be afraid of the future. There's joy in the future. There's joy in having your boss be a black woman. There's joy in what's coming. And I think that he's going to teach lots of people, in addition to whatever role he plays in the election and in the White House, he's going to teach lots of people through his role in culture. So I'm kind of curious, is this guy on MSNBC announcing that Walz has plans on declaring a cultural role? Like I said, I think the first thing that this guy does, if he's elected with Kamala Harris, the first thing he does is make it nationwide a ban on banning gender transitioning surgeries for minors. He's going to make it to where states can't ban that. I think that's the first thing he does once he gets into the White House, this Tim Walz guy. As governor, he solidified anti-parental rights legislation in an attempt to forcibly trans kids. He wants the kids to be trans, okay? And he writes and enshrines into law that a 6-year-old or a 12-year-old can travel across state lines. So say in Texas, they ban gender transitioning surgeries, right? They can go up to Minnesota and get a gender transitioning surgery at the taxpayer's expense. Now, that is also the case here in Illinois. It's a little more radical in Minnesota, believe it or not, because Tim Walz did this via executive order. He enshrined this legislation via executive order. It wasn't legislation at all. At least this last spring legislative session in Illinois, at least our General Assembly, for the nuts that they are, created this legislation and passed it via the General Assembly. Okay, so this guy, via executive order, made it to where children can go get taxpayer-funded gender transitioning surgeries and cross state lines. I mean, this is radical. Additionally, he condoned 2020 BLM riots. He basically laughed and watched. His wife definitely laughed and watched Minneapolis burn down to the ground. As she said yesterday, I played the clip. She goes, I rolled up my window. I lifted up my window in my house and just took in the burning rubber because I just thought it was such a pivotal moment. What? You enjoyed the smell of burning rubber? Meanwhile, while Minneapolis was burning down to the ground? You psycho! You're psycho. Okay, if this is what people mean when claiming Walz is teaching a lot of people through his role in culture, I don't think anybody wants that. I don't think they want somebody who burned Minneapolis to the ground and was complicit in burning Minneapolis to the ground, refused the National Guard up to a point. He eventually sent him. He hesitated, though, via text messages with the Minneapolis mayor, by the way. I don't think people really want to learn about how to forcibly trans kids and get kids to be trans via legislation, or in this case, it's not even legislation. It was an executive order where he got kids to get gender transitioning surgeries on the taxpayer dime from other states. When it comes to average people, radical culture wars are not what they want. Transing kids is not what they want. BLM riots, burning down cities is not what they want. So, like I said, this MSNBC host, this racial gobbledygook is essentially what I call it. He also said this in a social media post after this MSNBC appearance. He says, quote, Walz is a PSA for white folks, older folks, men, rural dwellers, and others that you need to be afraid, or you don't need to be afraid of the future. A PSA? What? He's a walking PSA for white folks? Oh, gosh. A Harris-Walz presidency should make your skin crawl, especially considering how dumb it is for them to claim that Kamala Harris is going to fix this mess that she's directly related to. She's the second most powerful person in the world, and the American people are suffering from the policies enacted while she's sitting as the second most powerful person in the world. Okay, so like I said, this guy is ridiculous. Here's a quote from the guy on MSNBC. Anad is his name. He says the biggest significance of this man is that he's an older white man in a moment in which the far right is trying to convince people that the future is treacherous for them, trying to convince men that the future is treacherous for them. Here's an older white man, a coach, a soldier, who's very hard to dismiss. So he said the biggest significance of this man is that he's an older white man. How significant is that actually at all? Skin color, age, gender, that's all the left has to offer. The fact that his biggest significance is that he's an older white man, I mean, come on. It's not very, in other words, you have nothing to offer. He has nothing significant about him. Okay, but they'll try to gaslight you into thinking that you should care about skin color, gender, age. But really, nobody really cares about your insignificant birth rates. They just want the economy to back to where it was post Biden or pre Biden, and they want crime to be eradicated, and they want illegal immigration to stop. Okay, so I got to take a quick break, but we're going to be right back, wrapping up the show. This is Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Okay, I can't. We got to get rid of this guy. I'm going to share one cute little clip with you here to wrap up the show. It's kind of funny. But like I said, they said that the most significant thing about this MSNBC contributor, Anand, says that the most significant thing about Tim Walz is the fact that he's an older white man. Okay, if that's the most significant thing about him, then perhaps he shouldn't be the vice president, because that's not very significant at all. There's a ton of white older men on the planet, and that's what makes him significant. I mean, come on. Should he really be president, or a heartbeat away from the presidency? So here's another thing that the campaign said. The campaign is standing on the insignificance of vibes. So here's what he said. The MSNBC contributor, his name is Anand, right? That's his name. So Anand says that, the campaign understands the importance of, quote, vibes. Wow. They are really depending on the naive voters here. They say that the vibes are the most important thing about this, and it's a very significant thing in this campaign is the vibes, whatever the hell that means. So they're standing on this. Really, it's insignificant. The vibes is insignificant. And it's pathetic, but what's even more pathetic is the state of the media that we've got. This is an MSNBC. This is MSNBC. People watch this crap, okay? And they're sitting here talking about, if these people were serious, they'd actually challenge Kamala Harris on things that actually Americans care about, things like illegal immigration, crime, the economy, things that people care about, health care. But they're too busy holding Kamala Harris's hand, holding Tim Walz's hand, and going on rants about how, the Harris-Walz ticket has good vibes. What? Vibes has never made it as an issue on a poll, on any polling metric. Like, okay, so you would vote for Kamala Harris because her vibes are good? No. What does that even mean? But like I said, these people are idiots. The two most important, I think, polling metrics and things that people care about are illegal immigration and the economy. Those are the two most important things people care about. And I don't care what kind of vibes Tim Walz gives off, like he's this old American dad, folksy, Midwestern. Even if he were to give off, and he doesn't give off that vibe, but even if he does give off that vibe, it's not important to me. I don't care what kind of vibe you give off. Kamala Harris, gives off the vibe of a cool aunt. I've seen that before, and it's like, okay, who cares? I don't care what kind of vibe you give off. I care about my paychecks and how much money I'm getting each month. I care about illegal immigration, and if my children are going to be sexually assaulted, like in Kankakee, by illegal immigrants. I care about that. I don't care about what vibe you give off. she's running scared. It's been at least 20 days, maybe 19 days since Kamala Harris has even looked at the press. Unclear how long this is going to work in her favor, but undoubtedly it's not going to help her get any kind of swing votes. This is not going to help anybody get any kind of swing votes. This guy is talking to, the people who will never vote outside of blue ever. They're going to vote blue no matter what, because their whole aura is about identity politics, and that's what they care about is identity politics. But that's not a majority of America. A lot of people don't care about identity politics. Woohoo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. It's Friday, and I have a really funny video for you. I opened up the show with it, and I hope that you like this. The Indian community, they're not going to be voting for Kamala Harris. This is an Indian fella, and I think he goes by the name Tony on TikTok, but he's pretty funny. And he talks about how Kamala Harris has a new nickname. The new nickname is Kamala, and I'm going to share this with you. Here we go. Let's take a listen.
Kamala Harris. After much self-reflection, I have come to the realization that there is one thing very Indian about you, and that is that you became the Democratic nominee without a single vote. Bitch, you pulled the biggest scam of all time. No Indian I know, from the call centers to email phishing, no Indian I know has scammed 250 million people. Not bad, Kamala. That's pretty good numbers. If you manage to actually win the election, you will have pulled off the biggest Indian scam of all time. From here on out, your new name is not Kamalto actually. It is now Skamala. Skamala Harris.
Kamala Harris. The economy is so bad right now. They even had to outsource Joe Biden's job to an Indian. Oh gosh, this is pretty funny. He's got several of these, in all seriousness, right? This is a joke, but it's true. She's going to be. It's an undemocratic process. She hasn't been out in front of the press, as I was talking about. She has yet. It's day 20. And she still hasn't been out in front of the press. I wonder how long she thinks that this is going to work in her favor, but undoubtedly this is not going to help her get any kind of swing voter because nobody knows what she stands on. Nobody knows her political stance on any kind of issue because she won't take questions. This is the biggest scam, and she's pulling off the biggest scam. Those calls, the Indian calls. And they try to scam you into whatever. All right. Well, I've got to go. I appreciate you guys taking some time listening 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Monday through Friday. You guys have a blessed weekend. Stay safe. Mwah. Bye-bye. I love you. Come to the stream. I've got one more video I want to share with you. Bye-bye. Talk to you soon. Okay, folks. One more video I wanted to share with you from this guy. Absolutely hilarious. The Indian community is not going to be voting for Kamala Harris, by the way, and that's very clear by this fellow here. His name is Tony, I believe. And this is just awesome. Let's see this.
Harris, you are not getting any vote from the Indian community, specifically because you do not talk like this. You are half Indian, and I've never seen you eat chicken tikka masala. Kamala Harris, have you even seen Om Shanti Om? Do you even know how to say hello in Hindi? It is Kyawa, by the way. But don't use that in your speech. I have not seen you wear a sari once in your life. Donald Trump will get the Indian vote, however. Do you know who runs all of Trump's IT software? That is correct. Indians. We run all the tech support on Truth Social. Kamala, I don't ever want you using your half Indianness ever again. We revoke your Indian access. You are not allowed to Uber eat from any Indian restaurant ever again. Indians, shame Kamala Harris. Shame.
So he's on TikTok. This guy is absolutely hilarious. I love that guy. Tony, I guess is his name. But yeah, like as I said, she is pulling off the biggest scam that the American people have ever seen. You guys have a blessed day. Be sure to smash that like button. I hope you have a safe weekend, and we'll be back at it Monday through Friday. Stay tuned, actually, for a drop of a interview that I had this week with Bob Fioretti. Bob Fioretti is running for the Cook County State's Attorney. I had an interview with him the other day, and he talked about how he's going to combat crime in Chicago and specifically Cook County. And we know Kim Foxx was just completely abysmal in that role, but he's running as a Republican for Cook County State's Attorney. I had a very interesting conversation with him. So stay tuned. That is going to drop on my YouTube channel today. So stick around for that later on today, but we'll be back with the live daily show on Monday from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m.